But sexuality is still a part of your development, and that's something that makes people uncomfortable. Just as equally, people are uncomfortable with the idea of elderly people being sexual when they are also still sexual beings. So where do these ideas come from? Where do this uncomfortable feeling come from? Again, it is our society, it's our environment, it's our culture, it's our religious views. There are some people who their concept of sex comes from something they've learned from their parents. How did their parents interact? And this is something we talk about in sex therapy when a couple comes in. Often, or an individual comes in, I say, well, how did you learn about sex? Did the person learn about sex watching television? Did they learn about sex watching pornography? And I've said it over and over again, porn might be good sex entertainment, but it's not good sex education. If you were observing your parents who didn't touch each other, they never kissed each other, they always stayed apart, that becomes your idea of a relationship. If you grow up in a culture or in a society that sex is only for procreation and anything other than that is wrong, then that's going to form how you feel about masturbation, how you feel about having sex for pleasure. If you grow up in a very fundamentalist religious background, and again, I am not knocking religion. I need to make this statement because I've made some comments about religion on the show, and people have thought I'm atheist or I'm anti-religion when that's the farthest thing from the truth. Very far from the truth. But there are people who are growing up in religious environments, and because their religion teaches something about sex, and this person who is a sexual being, and they start to feel hormonal, and they start to feel turned on or sexual, or they start to fantasize, and they think all of these things are wrong, they shouldn't be doing it, and they start to feel shame when they masturbate, or they feel so much guilt when they have sex. The purpose of this show is not to exonerate someone from feeling guilty. I'm not saying that you can do any sexual behavior whatsoever and everything is perfectly normal, natural, and okay. You cannot go out and rape someone, and because you felt pleasure, that, oh, I shouldn't feel any shame. That's just society putting it on me, or that's just religion putting it on me. The line here is clearly consent when another person is involved. What I am telling you, and the reason why we're having this discussion on this week's podcast, is because I know so many of you, and I know this because of what you have written on Instagram, so many of you feel bad when it comes to your sexual behavior. And it's not all negative thoughts that you've been taught. Some of it is things such as guys want sex all the time. And I have gentlemen write to me saying, something has to be wrong with me because, I'm okay with sex once a week or every other week. Or the idea that, you should be involved in certain type of sexual behaviors in order for it to be normalized. And you feel like, well, I like to have sex in a missionary position. Something's wrong with me. I've had a lot of females write in about this. Is something wrong with me that I enjoy missionary position when people say it's so boring? Where do these concepts come from? Where do these ideas come from? The idea of slut shaming is very damaging. What is that? That's, if a girl has sex with so many people, then, she's a slut. It's okay for a guy to do it. He's a stud. If a guy goes around and has a new partner every weekend, he's such a stud. If a girl does it, she's a slut. And I want you to think about how that affects you. I'm not just talking to the females listening. I'm also talking to the men listening. Because I've had gentlemen who have made comments towards females, calling them sluts, calling them whores. Why? Well, typically it's because the girl won't give them it's typically because the girl won't give them the sex that they're craving. So they slut shame them for saying, well, you've slept with 3 guys, or look at the post you post on Instagram. You're such a whore. You know, you posted photos of you at the beach. And that's supposed to be okay. That's supposed to be shameful and disgraceful, right? Wow, you had sex with a guy this weekend that you're not married to, you slut. And that's supposed to be so shameful that it's used as an insult. Well, that's why we're talking about this, because this idea of shame associated with sex affects everyone. It affects not only the person who is calling other people names that are ridiculous, but it affects relationships, like where a guy is under the impression that, you know, he has to be able to perform or want to have sex every night in order to be a man. And it also affects individuals who feel so much shame around wanting sexual pleasure and wanting to masturbate that they refrain from doing this. And so they never explore their body, they never understand their body, and when they are in a relationship and when they do have sex, it's terrible sex, and it never goes well in the relationship whatsoever. I'm telling you that it is okay to be a sexual being. You were created as a sexual being. It is okay to explore your sexuality, your sexual orientation, and your sexual desires. These societal chains, these cultural chains regarding your sexuality are intentional. Because when we are sexually aligned, we are not easily contained. When we know ourselves sexually, when we understand ourselves sexually, and we are comfortable with ourselves sexually. And if you haven't listened to the show about why sex therapy is important, why sexual health is important, because it's important that we understand ourselves, because sexuality makes up such a big part of who we are as a human being, biologically, physiologically, all of that is part of our makeup. If we can contain someone and we can stagger someone in that area of their life, we can control other portions of their life.